never slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to your Thursday night episode of Talking Elite here at the All Elite Zone podcast. Me, as always, I am the bearded wonder, Adam Glexy, your host, your guide, your spiritual leader in these Thursday night shows. First of all, thank you guys for joining us tonight on Thursday. Tonight we're very excited because we're going back to the beginning. This is going to be really exciting for us. I know I'm excited for us. I know Connor's excited for it. So we're going to get into it. But first, again, let me introduce you guys to the panels tonight. Coming all the way from the great state of Texas, home of the greatest wrestling family, the Von Erichs. Everybody's favorite Marky Mark. Everybody.
What's up, y'all? Man, I'm glad to be joining Talking the Elite tonight. I know I don't get to join on these too often, and then I did miss last night's Dynamite episode, but I'm interested in getting this topic. I know we got a good one tonight, talking about some old school AEW, which I think everybody loves, and I'm going to send it right back over to you, Ev.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, I'm very excited, and very excited for you to join us tonight on tonight's episode, man, because, I mean, this is basically going back in history, and we're very excited for it. And then also with us tonight, it's our favorite producer. Again, I say this so many times, but without him, this show wouldn't be what it is today. He does a lot of the stuff behind the scenes. We have to give him a lot of love for it. He's everyone's favorite producer of this podcast. Everybody, please welcome Mr. Connor Hayes.
Thanks for the 2 weeks in a row with the great induction. Look, I shouldn't take all the credit because it wasn't for a lot of you guys. Just never would have kickstarted, but yeah, it should be a good episode. It's really hard to hear that we're talking about old school AEW. Feels like it just started a few days ago. We're like 4, almost 5 years in.
Yeah, it's amazing because we talk about that. We talk about longevity of a company. We talk about the longevity of just professional wrestling. And when this started back in 2019, a lot of people thought, what is this company? Is it going to last? But it's still around, and it's crazy to think about that. And here we are. And again, Connor, I'm sincere about that with you saying that it is a lot of us, but honestly, man, like I wouldn't have discovered this podcast if you hadn't invited me on Facebook, man. So I'm very excited that I got to be a part of it,
And let me piggyback off of you off of that. Like, yeah, if it wasn't for me, I was, a lonely watcher of AEW, and I said, man, I want to watch a podcast, and I reached out to Connor and said, hey, man, like, what's up? Like, can I get on this podcast? And it took me a little while, but Connor knew that I could, talk some sense to some people, and but if it wasn't for Connor, I wouldn't be here right now. And yeah, of course, all due goes to Connor for sure. Because I'm nothing without Connor. If Connor wasn't here, I wouldn't be here. So yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, no. So, and honestly, Connor, thank you for that. But yes, we for tonight, if anybody is not knowing, tonight we are going way back to 2019. We are going back to the very first episode of AEW Dynamite, which had premiered on October 2nd, 2019. In Washington, D.C. at the Capital One Arena. Now, before we jump back too far, let's talk a little bit. Let's do a little bit of a recap yesterday of Dynamite. For anybody who's seen it, if you haven't seen it yet, you can mute, but continue watching. But for last night's episode of Dynamite, I honestly thought it was very riveting. I think it was very interesting. I don't think it was their best episode. A little bit, but it was a good episode still. There were some good moments of it last night. I guess I'll start with you, Mark. What's one thing from last night's episode that you thoroughly enjoyed about?
Oh my God. I mean, well, I'll have to say that the storylines that were progressed throughout the night, and then we got some more like different storytelling with. I had to enjoy like the Adam Page and MJF the interactions backstage, and then the whole Joe thing. I'm kind of interested in this whole Joe thing being like a big brother type to MJF now. Like he's like seriously like concerned. He doesn't want him to do anything stupid. He wants to make sure that he's healthy and ready to go for the main event, right, at World's End. And he's like intervening, and he's ready to take on all the devil, worshipers or whatever the hell they want to call themselves. But the devil storyline has been the one thing. And then of course Swerve and Mox. They set this thing up for next week that we're gonna have a winners, and these two guys it looked like they were the two ones that we're gonna see go for that title of the gold, or what is it, the blue, or is it the blue or gold? Is it blue? Blue. I think they're blue. They're blue.
They're gold. No, they're in the gold division.
They're gold. So yeah, so I figured like there was gonna be them two from the beginning. When we saw the the cheat sheet of who was gonna be, it looked like it was gonna be them two. So next week's episode is like setting that up, and I like how they set that up, that they had something backstage. And of course, I mean, we can't forget about that main event. I know there's been a lot of backlash about what happened on that main event with Nick Wayne's mom. I was okay with it. I'm not going to go too much into that, but I know the only reason I won't go too much into that is because I know that's going to set up another match for World's End, obviously. So I won't get into that match, but I'll just go into the things that were detailed and Rio coming back. I know I wasn't one thing, but I liked a lot of things about last night's episode. It was so great. It was one of the funnest episodes that I've ever enjoyed. There were so many good matches, so many good storylines. It was really one of my favorite Dynamites of the towards the end of the year for sure.
Yeah, no, you touched all the points that, honestly you could with that episode last night. Obviously, we're getting some good matches weekly with the Continental Classic tournament. So yeah, no, you touched upon it pretty well. Connor, what's one thing you'd want to take away from last night's episode? Some positives, some negatives. I mean, what was your view on yesterday's episode?
I thought they had a very good women's match, Tony Storm and Sky Blue. I'm glad Tony retained. I like that Riho came back. I'm assuming they're going to set up for Tony and Riho at World's End maybe, or Winter's Coming. That was one of the things I liked. I liked a lot of stories were progressing, it felt, especially with the MJF and the Devil. They had a backstage promo, that MJF's promo with Hangman, that Samoa Joe's thing. They had, like, it was just an all-involving thing with that one story. And of course, my favorite like Continental Classic match was probably was it Swerve and Mark Briscoe? I believe it was. That was my favorite match because I really thought Mark Briscoe was going to pull out a win. But I thought the matches from the Continental Classic was good. But the one thing I liked the most was the women's match.
Yeah, I'm totally agree with you on that. I think that might have been one of Sky Blue's better showings in a title match. I mean, obviously we knew she wasn't going to win, but the fact that she put on a really good showing against Tony Storm, I actually thoroughly enjoyed that match, very much so. And obviously the return of Rio, obviously we'll talk about it tonight, but the very first AEW Women's Champion returned last night. And so that was a cool return. And obviously the Continental Classic is amazing. You're getting solid matches every week with that tournament. And honestly, I was up there with you, Connor. I felt like that Briscoe Swerve match was really good, back and forth. Honestly, I kind of knew Swerve was going to win, setting up this great match he's going to have with Mox next week. But I would also say the other Continental Classic match that I thoroughly enjoyed, believe it or not, was Jay Lethal versus Jay White. I honestly thought that was a really good technical match. Both guys just giving it their all in the technicality of it. I mean, obviously, Swerve, Briscoe, and Mox and Roosh, they were hard-hitting matches. But with Lethal and Jay, they were technical. They were doing all these things. It was the Ring of Honor kind of days, which is where they had one of their first matches. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. That's one of the aspects I like about AEW is bringing back, even in Ring of Honor days of some of these guys wrestling each other, kind of intertwining it into the stories. Obviously, we got a progression of the Devil story with MJF's Mojo leading up to World's End. And obviously, the crazy main event that, yes, a lot of people are complaining about, but it progresses the story. And we talk about that when wrestling. We want the story to progress, we don't want it to sit stale. So obviously, there is some buildup with Nick Wayne's mom, Shayna, basically, hitting Adam Copeland, and this is going to probably set up a match at World's End, probably just to end it all and possibly give Adam Copeland the title, because obviously they're not going to change the title. They've done it numerous times on the show, but I think they're building with this story, most likely would be paid off on a pay-per-view. So I actually thought yesterday's episode was okay, was good. I would probably give it an 8 out of 10, maybe a 7.8 out of 10, somewhere in that range. But obviously there's much more to go, obviously, with, Rampage tomorrow and Collision on Saturday. But, other than that, I think we had a really good episode, really building towards the World's End card, which I think a lot of people are excited for. I know within the process, they're going to build more stories and matches for it. But I also want to side note yesterday with the episode, I think the greatest underrated segment yesterday was Roderick Strong kicking the wheelchair, basically saying, I'm not going to use this as my clutch anymore, my crutch, as to say, which is great. And they announced last night that next week on Dynamite, Roderick Strong is wrestling Hangman Page. So I don't think we've had that match yet in AEW. I think it'll be a really good match. I think I'm actually excited for that match. And so again, we got Winter is coming next week. So we're gearing up for that too. Sorry, gotta drink my water. But yeah, no. So last night, it was a good show. Connor, I kind of missed the live reaction to it. What would you give what did you give score wise for Dynamite?
I give it a 7.8, I think. So either 7.5 or 7.8. It was. I forgot to mention the main event. I completely forgot about the main event. I thought the match itself was really, really good. They both hit their finishers.
Dude, no, my bad, Connor. Go ahead.
So like they both hit their finishers, and despite the ending, which kind of seemed like a WCW ending, but it was a really good match in itself. And I kind of wanted Christian to win so they could have a really. It's kind of like Punk and MJF. They had the one match on Dynamite. MJF wanted that the pay-per-view that even better match in the dog collar match. So I think at World's End we'll get a ladder or a cage match with Christian and Edge.
Yeah, that match was so good. I'm telling you, I don't think I've ever seen in the history of how I've been watching wrestling. I don't know, 25, 28 years I've been watching wrestling. I've never seen two guys hit a spear at the same time. That to me blew my mind. Like that's when I went, holy shit! I'm my bad. I should say, but holy crap! When I saw that, because that had to have hit their shoulders like clean, and I was just like, dang! I was like, that had to have hurt. I never seen that before, and that's what I love about this match. I was kind of seeing some things. I think I saw a couple of things from Christian from Edge that I wasn't seeing before. And he was pulling off some like really good things. That match was really good. Yeah, that ending it wasn't terrible, but it was just I think Nick's Wayman kind of like ruined it because you could see Christian was having to tell her, look at me, because she kept looking at Edge. And it was supposed to be that she was supposed to be looking at Christian the whole time and then go and hit Edge. And I think that kind of ruined it for people because it was like, oh, we already know what you're doing. And then you could see Edge when the camera went to cut to Edge to Christian. Christian was like, look at me. You're supposed to be looking at me, right? To take the thing off of Edge so that you know that you do something crazy. That's the whole point of doing these crazy endings is it's supposed to be a surprise. But the fact that she kept looking at Edge the whole time, or Adam, kept looking at Adam the whole time, you could tell, like when I was watching it, I was like, oh man, I was like, she's gonna hit, and then she looked at Christian, and I was like, she's not gonna hit Christian. I was like, I already knew. But those are things like that's my main critique out of the whole show was that it's just that little thing of it should have been a little bit more exciting at the end, because I don't mind that because after what Edge did to her son, smashing the chair over his head, like that. I mean, any mom would be pissed off at the dude that ever did that, no matter how the son is, right? Because that's their natural born. A guy just coming and be a savior isn't, always that thing. But I don't know. I just felt like she gave it away too soon. That's my only thing. If it wasn't for that, that would have been a great match and a great ending.
So another question about last night, real quick, before we move on to tonight's topic. I don't know if any of you guys caught it at snafu on commentary when Shivani actually accidentally said WCW instead of AEW. He was trying to talk about guys like on the roster, but he says the WCW roster, and Taz had it corrected saying, well, there's also guys in the AEW roster, but I know what you're talking about, Tony. Like, I don't know if you guys caught that. Do you guys think there's a time where older generational commentators need to start kind of rebrushing and kind of like, I don't know. It kind of threw me off because I heard it. I'm like, did he just say WCW? And then when I heard Taz say AEW, I go, he just corrected him live on air. And that seems to be a little with the IWC community that's those little things like irks them and they want to go. Do you guys think that they could probably do a better job on working with the announcers, even though they're getting older?
I mean, JR, but the thing is, JR has been like nonstop on this for the past like few years, poor guy. And because at the beginning he wasn't like this. So I don't know if it's just like older with age, you just start forgetting, you just like it's your mind.
Well, also, Mark, you also have to remember JR also had a couple of medical issues with him. So a little bit that does mess with the brain membrane and all that, and psyche, because he has the palsy and then he's had strokes. So it's like it does mess with that. But I kind of see where you're going. You keep going. Sorry. Which is
why I never anything about JR making mistakes because of that. People will call him out. Oh, he did this, he did that. I'm like, calm down. Like the man, like I would be like, he had a heart attack. His wife died in a car accident. Like, give him a break. Like if he's still there, he's still doing a good enough job. I don't ever clown on JR. But I'm just bringing up to your point. So what you're saying is that, there is something there, but I'm not too worried. Like that stuff doesn't like bother me too much if somebody says something, because like I'm trying to think about it. When did that happen? When did Shivani say something about WCW? Did I miss that?
It was during one of the Continental Classic matches. Okay. I don't know which one. And Connor, I don't know if you remember which one it was, but it was during one of those matches.
I didn't say it till now.
Yeah, no, it was during. I want to say it was during probably the first match. I think it might have been either during Roosh and Mox, or it might have been during Briscoe and Swerve.
Because I listened to the commentary, right? And the one thing is that when I do the show, we don't really listen to the commentary. We're too busy talking and we're watching the matches, so we rarely hear anything that's on commentary. But that's why I usually go back and I'll watch again. One, I want to see the other matches again, and then hear commentary. But rarely do I ever like poke and say, oh, they should, why did he say this and why did he say that? It's rare unless it's like something like out of the norm. But the commentary, as long as it's decent, during the show, I'm not gonna critique it all that much. So I'm not gonna be too bothered about it. I don't know where you stand on that, Connor.
The only thing that they should change is one commentator should not be on all three shows. Like Tony Schiavone is now on all three shows: Dynamite, Rampage, and Collision. Now he should only be on one show, and because sometimes a big workload like that it's a lot. It's on an older person, which I hate to say that about Tony Schiavone, but he is, another person. But I feel like they should only be on keep Tony Schiavone on Dynamite or Collision, and then keep everyone should be on one, assigned show because I don't know how old Tony Schiavone is, but 3 shows is a big workload. That's 5 hours of TV. That can
Not to
be
mention, all the traveling and everything that you gotta be
like if
doing
I
at
was
that
on
old age.
like if I was on commentary, I would have said, "Hey, we're the WWE roster" or something like that. Because like I couldn't imagine the workload. Like, and I did believe Tony Schiavone is a producer as well, besides a commentator. So that's the only thing I feel like if they reduced the workload on some commentators, it would ease things up. But that's just my opinion.
Because they could, because it's true, because they can only focus on what's on that show instead of worrying about, oh, I got to worry about this show, that show, this show, and all the wrestlers that are on all the different shows. And yeah, of course, your mind's gonna get, you're gonna get a little mind boggled every here and there. I mean, it's gonna happen to all of us eventually, right? Like, we're all gonna get older. We're all gonna like mess up things. I'm sure when I get older, I'm gonna say, AEW, and I'll say WWE when I meant to say, AEW, and I'll just be talking to friends, not on national TV. So yeah, I agree with your point that it would be easier, to just put everybody on one show, because that's a lot, especially for I mean, we don't want to, we're not old shaming here, but it's a lot. It's a lot for these guys.
I mean, if you look at it too, I mean, we go back to when SmackDown and Raw kind of split up and they had their own announcing teams. Jim Ross was never on Friday Night SmackDown. He was only on it for a little bit because I believe he was on it for when I keep forgetting which wrestler it was that always wanted him to do like commentary during his wherever he was. But for the most part, Jerry Lawler, Jim Ross, and someone else would be on Raw. Then you'd have like Taz and Michael Cole on SmackDown. So you had the split. So it would kind of work out if they did the same thing with AEW, where hey, let's have Excalibur, Tony Schiavone, and Taz on Dynamite. Let's have someone else on Rampage. Let's have Nigel and Kevin on Collision. Like that, for me, that's perfect. That's your 3 teams right there. You don't have to.
So my only thing on that, I would keep Tony Schiavone on Collision, and keep and let's have Taz and Excalibur by themselves on Dynamite, and then whoever you want to put on Rampage, doesn't really matter. It's only an hour.
Well, for Rampage, you could, even though it's an hour, you could still. I mean, I think the most interesting you could do is maybe have like one person from Dynamite and one person from Collision commentate together on Rampage. I think that'd be an excellent idea, kind of mix and match a little bit. So like one Friday you can have Excalibur and Kevin Kelly do Rampage, or the next week you could have Taz and Nigel. Like you can mix and match on Rampage because it's only an hour. So you would but that's the issue, is because you got one guy as a commentator, but then other one as color. Like it's almost like sports where you have a play-by-play guy and a color commentary.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be hard to do that, but it would be interesting to see.
But one guy too that I loved in Dark was Daddy Magic. I thought Daddy Magic did really good on a color commentary. Big Show not so much as being the main commentator, because it was like Big Show was like there was a couple of episodes where they did it where Big Show was like the main guy, and then it was Daddy Magic, and I love Daddy Magic. They had a good little chemistry, but you couldn't do that for like national TV, right? I already know the networks wouldn't allow Big Show to be the main guy, even on an hour episode of Rampage. Like that couldn't happen. But Daddy Magic was really good. I thought Daddy Magic is hilarious. I love him on commentary. When he was on commentary for that one match with Daniel Garcia, man, it was freaking hilarious when they told him that he couldn't leave the ring. Kevin Kelly was like, "You can't leave this side." He goes, "Otherwise you'll be fired." He goes, "Hey, I know about the rules, guy. Okay." He goes, "Hey, cameraman." He goes, "Don't get too close, pervert."
Yeah.
I just like cracked the hell up, and I'm just like, "Oh my god, dude! Like that's freaking hilarious." I was like, "Yes, like give me more of this guy on commentary." So I wouldn't mind him having, but he has to like wrestle matches too on and especially for Rampage. That's the thing, is that's why they can't do it, because mostly if he's gonna wrestle, he's gonna be on Rampage, so you can't really have him on Rampage. So that's the only thing.
Right. No, and that's a good take on it. So, but I mean, for commentary, that's a whole nother level. It's more so of what we see on, like, just in the ring. You know, commentary is one thing for a show, but it's what happens in the ring for us as fans is what's really important. Yes, we love the commentary of it, but it's what's happened in the ring, which obviously brings us to our kind of thing tonight about the very first episode of Dynamite. You know, from that first episode, it was crazy to think that this new company just shows up, and now they're having a show, a weekly show, and it's debuting, and everybody's sitting on, you know, hands and knees, just waiting to see what kind of, you know, what are we going to see in this ring? What kind of commentary are we going to listen? Who are we going to see? You know, but obviously we start from the beginning. Again, I mentioned it. It debuted October 2nd, 2019 at the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C., on the TNT network. And kind of reiterate, announce team that night. Your announce team was Excalibur, Tony Schiavone, Jim Ross was your night. So from that first episode, we had maybe 5-6 matches. And we talk about the trajectory of what a lot of shows talk about, where wrestlers were then, where they are now. And considering AEW's only been around for about 4 or 5 years now, you know, a lot of some of the homegrown talent that debuted on that episode are still there. So last week I even asked the audience to give me one male, one female wrestler from that first episode, and where they and their thoughts on them now and what their career is like. Obviously, we're gonna go with matches right now. I'll start. You know, the first match you had was Sammy Guevara and Cody Rhodes. Obviously, we could talk about the elephant in the road. Cody no longer with AEW. It is crazy to think that's where we're at today. Connor, since you've been with it since day one with AEW, you know, watching AEW since day one, I had to go back and watch the first episode because I didn't really get into Dynamite until maybe 2020 during the COVID years is when I first got into AEW. So I had to go back and watch episode 1. From your perspective on Cody, because I feel like that's maybe one of the names that you were thinking of for tonight's episode to talk about. After that, did you ever predict someone like Cody, who left WWE because of how he's booked, going to AEW, creating his own company? Did you ever feel like there was a chance, maybe even, that Cody might have stayed with AEW?
Yeah, I think there could have been a chance of him staying. We'll never know what the reason was he left. I feel like we'll never know. Maybe on Dark Side of the Ring, maybe, but that'll be years to come. I wish he would have stayed because he did a lot for AEW. The first ever match on Dynamite was Cody and Sammy, and just based off Sammy, look all what he's accomplished so far. I really wish I would have kept Cody because he was kind of the heart and soul of AEW. Like, you know, during the pandemic, that very first episode during the pandemic, and they were at Daly's place, he opened the show with that. I guess in AEW you would say an iconic moment. When the first words he said was, "I never thought of this world as small before." Like during the global pandemic, he started that off with. Cody's had a lot of memorable moments. Some moments I like to forget. Some moments he probably in AEW history forever. Mainly Brandy's moments, I guess. But she's not too bad because there's someone else in AEW that's a little bit worse. But yeah, I wish they would have kept Cody.
And honestly, I think having going against Sammy for the first match was actually a really good start. So Mark, considering where Sammy was on that first episode, you know, fresh looking face, young kid on the roster, wrestling someone like Cody Rhodes, someone who's been in it so long. Do you think Cody was the appropriate opponent for Sammy? Do you think that match with Cody kind of elevated Sammy to where he is now?
Oh, is that to me?
Yeah, that was to you, Mark. I don't know. Do you need me to repeat it?
No, my bad. My camera kind of went out there for a second. My bad. No. So that's, dude. I was like, I want to answer that. And this is a yes and no, right? I mean, it was yes because that match, because like Connor, when he talks about being a day one AEW, he says, you know, January 1st, I believe when they first announced. I had no idea about AEW until this episode. Okay, so this is my day one, was this episode of AEW. I had no idea about AEW. I didn't know about the Young Bucks. And I'm gonna be straight up. I know about Bucks, Hangman, Kenny Omega. I had no idea about these guys. I knew nothing. The person I was Cody. Right, so I tuned in to this first episode when I first heard about it, when TNT started, advertising it. I was like, "Holy crap!" I was like, "There's a new wrestling thing," because I don't even think like Twitter. I don't even think I saw it on Twitter or anything. So this was my first match that I was like, "Okay, let me see what this is all about." And this was the match that I said, "This is what I want to see in wrestling." Was when I saw Cody and Sammy. I didn't know who Sammy was. I only know who Cody was. And this is what got me into AEW, was this match. Yes, I wanted to see something different, but I didn't know what it was exactly, right? Because I didn't watch indie wrestling. I'm gonna be straight up. I didn't know nothing about indie wrestling and New Japan and all that. But this match really did it for me. When I saw this first match, I said, I was like, I'm hooked. And yes, it did stuff for Sammy, but for me, it also did stuff for Cody, because I really hadn't seen Cody since after WWE, since after I stopped watching. And, you know, I think the last time I saw him, I think he was in the faction with Randy Orton. And, you know, I just saw him as this, puny little guy that was just this mediocre little, mid-level, if not even lower than mid-level Carter. And then when I saw him here, I was like, holy crap. I was like, where'd this guy come from? I was like, what is this? Where's this Cody come from? Now he's bigger, he's stronger, he's faster, he's more athletic. He's doing way more things that I never seen him do when I saw this first match with him and Sammy. And then I saw Sammy Guevara, and I was like, Sammy. I was like, what the? I was like, I don't know who this guy is. I was like, he's from Houston. I was like, so he's not too far from where I live. I was like, this is really cool. I was like, damn, and this dude's really young. I was like, okay. I was like, and this match just went on and on, right? It was counter after counter, and then, these close to 3 counts after close to 3 counts. And it was I wasn't used to that, right? Whenever I used to watch wrestling, I wasn't used to that. And these guys just set the tone for me of what was to come for AEW. And so to your question, what they did for me, it did a lot for me to seeing Cody in another, in a different limelight, right? Because I was always used to Cody, like I said, the last time I saw him was with Randy Orton's thing. And then Sammy too. Sammy was I was like, this dude is awesome. But then he kind of fell off, right? He didn't get that push, because I guess he was too young, but he was still pulling out awesome matches every time I saw him after that. So both of these guys, they did really freaking awesome. I thought that first episode set the tone for what AEW was. And from then on, I was hooked. I rarely, if I ever missed an episode, it was rare. I was just tuned in, glued in after that. And then they came to my town a couple of months afterwards, and I was there. I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna go see these guys live. Shit, they were here. So what would you say that first episode was? What day was it?
It was October 2nd.
So they were here in Corpus, Texas, where I'm at, December 23rd, I think. Is that right? Okay.
Yep.
December 23rd, and I was at that episode with my dad. Me and my dad go watch it. Dude, I had time watching those, and I got shows.
Seems Mark is having some technical stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see if he might have to.
With AEW was that first match. Am I cutting out on you guys?
You were cutting out a little bit, Mark. We didn't get a lot of it. So
I'm gonna step out. I'm gonna step out, and then I'll come back in. Okay.
All right. Cool. Yeah. No. Absolutely. Yeah. To go off of that, what with Mark saying with that first match, that pretty much set the tone for what AEW was going to be. The style of wrestling it's going to be, the kind of show you're going to watch. It's not your typical WWE PG era wrestling. It was something different. And we have to give credit where credit's due. Even though we went back, we have to give credit to Cody. Cody with the Young Bucks and Omega, they tried something different, and it's sticking. Regardless if he's there or not. And I mean, we could all agree. We talked about it on the show a lot that they're all still friends. They probably all still talk. So it's like we don't need the people going, "Oh, this is better. This is better." No, we don't need that division and tribalism. It's they're all friends. They all work together. But yeah, I think Cody is one name from that first episode we had to talk about. Because it was his baby. It was him, the Young Bucks, and Omega. I mean, it was their baby along with Tony Khan jumping in with it. It kind of just came together. And not a lot of people, a lot of people crap on Omega and the Young Bucks, but along with Cody, they gave us something. You could dislike the Young Bucks and Kenny, but I credit them because they gave me a different view, a different thing to watch other than WWE. Moving along on the show, the next match was Brandon Cutler, who we actually recently had on here on interview, wrestled against our current AEW World Champion, Maxwell Jacob Freeman. That's right. Max wasn't even on the first match. He was the second match on AEW's first episode of Dynamite. Do you think, Connor, with that, do you think that kind of, he talks about it all the time. Do you think something like that, where if he wasn't opening the show and he wasn't closing the show, that kind of gave him fire to where he's at now for Max?
Yeah, because he scratched and clawed his way to the main event. He's really the first homegrown guy to really scratch and claw and do anything it took to get to the spot he got. Whether it was any of the programs he did, he made it worthwhile. The first show, he cut probably one of the best promos in the entire show against Bret Hart. And Bret Hart came back and after said that was the best promo he's seen in years. Double nothing 2019, but yeah, I think MJF could do. It doesn't matter where you put him on the card. I think he'd find a way to make it interesting with the cards that he's given. Yeah, this match was it was a pretty decent match from what I remember. Brandon Cutler was still good, but back then he was good. Hopefully we get the Dragon back. But yeah, I believe MJF won by submission too. And by the way, he was the only wrestler on the show to win by submission.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about that. Like even someone like Chris Jericho was on the show and he didn't even win by submission. And he's known for his submissions. So it's crazy to think that. Yeah, no, I honestly think like you said, we talk about pillars of the company, and if Cody, the Young Bucks, and Omega were like the godfathers, like Max was one of the if they were the bosses, speaking in Italian mafia terms, because I'm Italian, sorry. But speaking of mafia terms, if Omega, the Bucks, and Cody were the mob bosses, the Max was one of the capos. Those are just the mini bosses underneath main bosses for anybody who don't know mafia terms. He was a capo. He was basically there. He was one of their guys. He was one of their homegrown guys there in AEW. I mean, you can even say Brandon Cutler was too. Brandon Cutler was there, and he's still there. I mean, both of them are still there today. You know, obviously Cutler is, you know, now the story going, Cutler taking over the media stuff, social media stuff for the Young Bucks, which I think is great. I read somewhere that Cutler is going to be more vocal, which is good. I do miss some of his him being more, you know, on screen, all this stuff. You know, so we're looking forward to that. And then obviously, you know, MJF, you know, being our world champion right now. It's amazing how far MJF has come from that first episode of how he, like you said, Connor, climbed his way up the ladders and honestly earned that world title. He understands the business. He understands the character work. I think it's the right thing that one of your homegrown stars is your champion right now. And they've kind of stuck with that ever since. We have to go back to when Chris Jericho was the inaugural, you know, AEW world champion. I mean, he's the one who came over when they announced it too. He was one of the first people to sign with them, which I thought, you know, is smart, and he's still with them. So I honestly think this, the trajectory of both these guys, I'm honestly excited to see where they both go. I mean, obviously Cutler's going to be more on camera, hopefully, and MJF is your world champion, and he's going to have a great match with Joe at World's End. Obviously, we had a lot of segments on the first episode. We have a lot of segments on every Dynamite, every Rampage, every Collision. The first one was one of my favorite wrestling journalists, Chris Van Vliet. I think that's Chris Van Vliet. How do you say his last? Yeah,
Chris Van Vliet.
Vliet. I mean, he was talking to Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes, Jay and Silent Bob, and who interrupts them but Jack Evans and Angelico. And then Private Party debuts. Private Party is another one of those teams that have been with AEW since the very beginning. Do you think, you know, when Mark Quinn gets healthy and all that stuff, do you see a change trajectory for Private Party to kind of make this triumphant return as a team and kind of go to new heights, Connor?
I really hope that they do, because they're a really, really good team. Their first ever match, well, on TV match, because they had matches prior to that, but on TV, they went against the Young Bucks, and they beat the Young Bucks. Like, they upset the Young Bucks, and they almost won the whole tournament. I really hope that when because Top Flight's come back now, we're getting a lot of tag teams back, that I hope that they start doing better tag division. And Private Party is it's been one of my favorite teams since they started AEW. They're very unique. I like the Private Party. I like when they used to have like the gate, like it's a private party, so then they'll, how do I say it? Like they had the like you know, like the guardrail, like they have
They had like the bouncer with the rope. Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
I like that too.
Party.
I like that was like a unique entrance.
Yeah, it's a private party, so it made sense to, like, everything they did made sense. Their tights, the way they wrestled was very different from everyone else. Yeah, I really hope that at least in the next 2 years that they maybe not win the tag titles, but well, the goal is I would assume to be tag champions, but hopefully the one day they'll get those tag team titles.
Now, another tag team that we saw in that first episode was SCU, which compiled of Scorpion Sky, Christopher Daniels, and Frank Kazarian. Mark, given how that first episode was and everything now, did it shock you? Like, did it surprise you that, you know, Scorpio Sky and Christopher Daniels stayed and Frankie left? Like, is that something you still want to see as possibly an SCU reunion in AEW?
Man, so as a trio, hell yeah. I felt like that was I felt like that really kind of sucked. That we didn't get to see them as trios, because I really did want to see them as trios. But Frankie and Scorpio, were they not the first tag team champions?
Yep. Yeah, Frankie.
Right, they were the first.
Yep. They beat Lucha Bros in the tournament. Yep.
Yeah, and so so I mean, I can't, not gonna hate on that. They got that star, into being the first AEW champion. That's something that they could take forever, right? Like no matter what happens, they can always go down as the first AEW tag team champions. And I love Scorpio and I love Frankie, uh, and I love Christopher Daniels, but Christopher Daniels, uh, he's not the Christopher Daniels old.
Yeah, he's definitely a little bit older.
I can't remember the last time he won a match. So yeah, so I'm not too worried about Christopher. I'm not too worried about Christopher. Stop it, God. No, but Christopher, I'm not too worried about. Maybe I would like to see Frankie and Scorpio get another run at it, but not too. I mean, they did what they were supposed to do. They came in, they won, the first ever tag team champions, and I like it, man. I love Scorpio and Frankie, man. They were great. SCU was like the game. Like I said, I didn't know about them, before anything happened, and I like them, and and it goes again with and this goes back to why AEW was so great. They had probably the best tag team, a roster there was at that time. When there was just a laundry list of guys that could win. They had the Wheelers, they had Frankie Kazarian, they had SCU, then they had Mark Hugh and see, and I'm like Brother Zay,
Private Party.
Private Party, yeah. And I mean, there was a laundry list of them, right? There was a whole bunch of them. That's why they had a tournament, because they had so many. I think that was what their main thing was that they came in and everything was tag team tournaments. I felt like those tag team guys, because there was only like a few guys in the main event scene, and then it was all tag team championships, and it was so fun watching all these tag teams and these tournaments. Tag team like that. I never really cared for tag teams, besides when in the early 2000s, when it was the Hardys and the Dudley Boys, and then Christian and Cage, right? Like those were main three that I always looked as tag teams. And then when that died out, I didn't really care about tag teams until this happened. Until I saw these guys, and I saw these guys wrestling as tag teams. And these tag teams, like, they took like tag team wrestling to another level. Like, they were always like really pulling off these like extravagant moves, and it was always these like almost 3 kickouts. It was just non-stop. It wasn't none of this like tie-ups.
Up again.
Again, yeah, no, he's yeah.
But
yeah, Mark. I don't know if it's because you're moving so much that it's just
and it was exactly. It was so entertaining. It was like you couldn't stop watching, and yeah, but going back to your question was as far as SCU, yeah, I wasn't too worried about Frankie and them leaving. I mean, Frankie left. He went on his own merit. If he wanted to go, I mean, Tony Khan said, let him go, because they didn't really have nothing for him. And Scorpio Sky kind of really had to establish himself as a single guy. And then when he was with Lambert and stuff, but at the beginning stage, they were really good, and I enjoyed watching them every single week. Except I just say I'm not gonna hate on Chris Daniels, but I never really got like what he did. And that's because even I watched some of his old stuff too at Ring of Honor, and I never really got it. But Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio too. Scorpio was just like one of the like crazy underrated wrestlers. That I thought this guy could just do like almost anything that you know, Ricochet could do better, but maybe he was just even a little stronger. You know, he could do like some more power moves than actually Ricochet could do, and that's why like I feel like fine what happened. I wasn't. That's not something I never dwelled on. I never dwelled on that. Like they broke up. Like it's cool. You know, the show goes on. You know, it's very rare that you know, that you're gonna sit back and say, "Damn it, why didn't they do this with them? Why didn't they do that with them?" But with these guys, I was just like, it was cool because, you know, Scorpio doing his singles thing was good for that little while. Kind of wish he would have did it for a little bit longer because I always liked Scorpio Sky more than Frankie and Christopher Daniels. But I was the new guy though. Like I said, like I didn't watch those guys, you know, back in the day. So when I saw them, I was just kind of saying like, they're, you know, they're okay. But Scorpio Sky, I was like, that dude's good.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think they were a great trio. Obviously, like you said, Frank Kazarian left kind of on his own merit. Maybe it's because of how the Impact schedule is. Maybe it worked better for him coming along with age. Still waiting for the time for Scorpio Sky to come back. I know he was on Collision for a little bit and then he left. I don't know if he's injured again. But yeah, it'd be great when he returns. I think it's going to be fantastic. Obviously, Christopher Daniels working some matches, but also behind the scenes, which is great. But we're going to change shift now to the females that were on that show. And one particular that really shined, again, probably one of the pillars of the company is Britt Baker. Britt Baker obviously was, had a great run as AEW Women's Champion for a while. And she had some great matches, i.e. against Thunder Rosa, had some really good matches. Connor, for you, we haven't seen much of her lately. She's been very vocal on Twitter. Do you feel it'd be good for a change, maybe to get back on track? Another title run for Britt Baker. Do you see that kind of in the future right now?
Yeah, there's no question that she will be either women's champion or TBS champion. She'll be champion again. It just depends when. See, right now, I feel like she was the first woman signed to AEW, and she's really been showing her frustrations on Twitter. She's been liking quite a few tweets, and the women's division needs a whole new overlook. Like they need a whole new plan, a whole new direction, something new. And Britt Baker is good on the mic, good on the ring. She's had very good feuds. I remember in the pandemic, she was still doing a feud while she was injured. She was in a wheelchair the whole feud, mainly.
That was so good. She was good at that.
And that's when they introduced Rebel. I didn't really care for the matches in that story. That was probably one of the worst matches in AEW history between Britt Baker and Big Swole. That's another match, though. But Britt Baker is one of the, as you said, Adam, she's probably one of the pillars of the women's division. But yeah, I think I could see her being TBS champion or being women's champion again. It's going to happen definitely. I know she said that she doesn't want to be champion again, but the championship will find her.
Yeah, and I honestly think I think the division does need the little shot a little bit more. I mean, you've got really good women wrestlers on the roster. They're just not being utilized to where they need to be. Obviously, the skyrocketing shoot that you had with Julia Hart winning that TBS title, which I guess you would say at the expense of Chris Statlander. As much as I enjoyed Chris Statlander coming back, taking the title off Jade Cargill, it was kind of quick for me because I felt like maybe Chris could have ran a little longer with it, but because of the way the writing was going with the matches and the telling, it really wasn't going anywhere, and I was upset about that. Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, joining us right now, one of our also newest members of the All Elite Zone podcast, coming all the way from the Midwest, our favorite female panelists. One of them, favorite
Thank you.
female panelist, Danny. Danny, welcome to the show.
Hey,
So Danny, we are talking about obviously the first episode of Dynamite that ever debuted in October of 2019. We are on the women's division. And one of the women we brought up was Britt Baker. Another one that maybe if we want to talk about is Rio, who was the very first champion crowned that night. Now from that, she defeated Nyla Rose in the match. With Rio's trajectory now from that first episode, she just returned yesterday. Do you see bright things with Rio's return from yesterday's episode?
that is a very good question. And I was looking back at watching some of the very first episode of Dynamite, but I'm a streamer with Hulu, so I couldn't find any back episodes. But Rio coming back last night, I feel like it's going to change the landscape just a little bit. Obviously, Britt has been gone for a while supporting Adam Cole. And every time I just want to say, Adam, I have to, I'm sorry. But so it's going to change the landscape a little bit. I feel like now that Jade's gone, but it's refreshing to see somebody new back. Whether or not she sticks around for a while, we don't know. But it's going to be really interesting, I think, just having her in the landscape again.
Yeah, and obviously that match was just so huge because, obviously it was the David versus Goliath storyline. Here's Rio, this little tiny girl, going against a very strong woman in Nyla Rose, and it's just like, okay, calm down. There's no way Rio's going to be a woman that size who's strong,
Right.
And I want to say I am going to be calling Nyla a woman. Let's not get political on this show. Yeah, that match was just David versus Goliath, and the fact that they gave Rio the rub on that was it's just great to see someone like Joshi, someone who's like a Joshi, Japanese kind of style wrestler win the women's title right off the bat. Now I don't know what's up with Mark or what's funny with Mark.
Look in the comments.
I saw the comments. I'm trying to ignore it, Connor. That's why you guys are making it harder.
I haven't seen any comments.
You don't have to worry about the comments. But obviously he's not here. But Daniel, I don't know who to ask the question now to because I'm all lost because of it. Connor, damn you. Okay, so made me lose track of this whole thing now, man. Come on.
My mind is gone. My boss and I are dog sitting, so we had a very energetic border collie mix over, so it was nonstop barking for like an hour and a half this morning.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
So, yeah. And then I had car issues, which is why I'm late. So then I'm like, oh, the stage just gets better and better. But at least our 3-year-old, she was good today.
Right. Well, that's good. So real quick, let's hit some of these comments, Connor. Okay, some of them, the right ones. All right. So Ethan says they recently signed Kevin Kelly because earlier we were talking about announcers. And so Ethan said they recently signed Kevin Kelly and Nigel, so they have enough commentators to have one team per show. I agree. We were talking about it earlier, Danny. Do you think it'd be right to kind of have certain designated announcers for shows?
Absolutely. And I say that because you tend to get used to a commentary team on a particular show. Of course, nobody will ever be as good as Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan on primetime. And I feel like you just identify with certain commentators and you like certain commentators more than others. I remember watching Kevin Kelly when I was a kid. I like him. Obviously, Tony Schiavone, love him too. And I happen to be a fan of Nigel McGuinness. I think he's fun. I think he's fresh. And occasionally, do what they did on, old episodes of Primetime where they typically had Gorilla Monsoon doing the commentary. They had Lord Alfred. They had Mean Gene. They had Heenan. Maybe have one primary person do the commentary and then just rotate them out because it gives them a different flavor. It gives it a different type of commentary style. And even the sarcasm within the commentary, that is what makes AEW priceless.
Nigel.
Yeah, go. No, sorry, Connor. I didn't know if you had some take on that.
I was gonna say that Nigel McGuinness is good at that. Where Danny was saying it, everything like him and Kevin Kelly is good at bouncing off each other. So Kevin Kelly will say something, and then Nigel will say something really funny to go at Kevin Kelly, and then they just go back and forth. They have a really good chemistry.
Yeah,
Nigel's been
go ahead, Mark,
Nigel's been
sorry.
great. Yeah, Nigel has been great. I think Nigel has been one of the most underrated signings for AEW. Like him on that commentary team on Collision, I love Nigel on there. Like I cannot get enough of him on there. He is so freaking hilarious, and he's so sarcastic with his comments. And he called Daniel Bryan Brittle Bryan. I love how he hates Daniel Bryan so much. I'm just like, oh my god, like please come back so y'all two can fight each other before he retires, because he calls Brittle Bryan. Daniel Bryan calls Brittle Bryan. Because he's always been hurt. And oh man, I love Nigel. Nigel's been like to me one of the underrated signings for AEW. His commentary it's chef's kiss, man. Like he talks his crap, and then he be super knowledgeable about what's going on in the ring, but he can also he'll tell you like something that's like something going on super serious, and then next second he'll tell you something like super retarded, and you're just like cracking your ass off. And that's the same thing like Taz does to me. Like Taz does that shit to me though too. Taz does that to me. Taz like, oh, would you look at this move? And then
I just stopped laughing, and now you're about to mess this whole thing up again. So last time it's hard for me to
by one word, you messed it up, Mark.
It's hard for me to contain not laughing sometimes, and then now.
Oh man, no, but I agree with you, Mark. Nigel does have some, and it's right because he does have that knowledge because he is a former wrestler. Like, I mean, it works out that why former wrestlers actually work out on commentary teams because they know what's up with the whole thing, and that's why I think Nigel's so good at what he does on the commentary team. Like I'll go back and watch some of the old commentaries from Collision episodes just because I want to hear Nigel say something so funny that it's dumb. Like it's just like what? Like why would you say that? So
and I feel like for me it's just that accent. It's that British accent, and
it gets you going, Danny.
Yeah, it really does for me. And I'm finally remembering when I was a kid, Lord Alfred Hayes on commentary. That was just priceless in the laugh. And one thing that they had at Dynamite when I was there in Chicago, Justin Roberts noticed a sign that says "Shut up, Taz." So somebody actually had that. And I turned around and I looked out, and they were sitting like. I was like right here. So they were sitting like a couple sections over, and I couldn't stop laughing. I thought that was the funniest sign. Shut up, Taz. And I think Taz even made notice of it. And I believe that was after they announced the commentary team, and Taz even saw it and had a big smile on his face.
That's hilarious. Ethan also says in the comments, since we are talking about day one stuff, Connor say the first AEW card top to bottom.
Oh, that's easy.
Are you talking about the AEW show or the pay-per-view is what I want to know, Ethan?
First show was technically Double or Nothing, but I'll do that's easy. The Casino Battle Royal, and you got the Kip Sabian and Sammy Guevara first match. The main show, SCU versus Strong Hearts of China. They were from OWE. Then we have let's see. Don't do this to me. I know all this. No, the Casino Battle is in the main show. I might not get all these in order, but we got Cody and Dustin. Got the women's three-way tag match. You have Team Aja Kong versus Riho. I'm not gonna go. I cannot remember those Japanese women's names. I know Reiho was one of them. Ima Sakura. Got Cody and Cody Rhodes versus Dustin Rhodes. The four-way women's match. Kylie Ray, Britt Baker, Nyla Rose, and Awesome Kong. See.
Yeah, because that four-way wasn't it supposed to be involved Brandy Rhodes, right?
It's supposed to be, but Awesome
Right,
Kong.
I believe, yeah.
Awesome Kong made
Did
that.
you in the MJF match?
MJF did. He was in the Casino Battle Royal. He was. He almost won it. Jericho and Omega was the main event. Got the Young Bucks, the Lucha Bros. That seems like the coup right there.
I mean, yeah, no,
I know
that's
Pac wasn't on the show. He was supposed to be. He was supposed to be Hangman and Pac, but that didn't happen.
well,
Pac got injured.
it happened on this episode of Dynamite,
Yeah,
and
it
we
did.
got it for free. And that's that'd be my next question, Mark, for you. Like Hangman versus Pac. I mean, obviously these two guys had two different styles. Pac obviously hard hitting, flying, but Page is kind of like the brawling type of pro wrestler. Did you like the clash of styles in this match between Page and Pac?
Oh, are you kidding me? Of course I love the styles, bro. This was one of these matches that I fell in love with AEW. I was like, I already knew about Pac, right? I seen him at NXT, and then his thing with, and I know his fallout that he had with Enzo Amore, and then I hadn't seen him after that because they wanted him to drop I think it was the NXT title to Enzo Amore, or one title they wanted him to drop, and he was like, no, I'm not doing that. And then when I saw him show up at AEW, I was like, yes. I was like, this is what I'm talking about. And then and I'm going to tell you again, I didn't know about Hangman Adam Page. So I didn't know about Hangman. But this match was, yes, one of the hard-hitting, like, go head-to-head, like, top toe-to-toe. Like, I was, like, thinking, like, yeah, these guys are, like, these are top-tier guys that are just going, like, toe-to-toe. And I gotta tell you, like, I didn't recognize this stuff coming from WWE, like these crazy, like hard hitting, go like wire to wire matches, right? Like it could have been like a 30-minute like Iron Man match, but it wasn't. But these guys still went at it so freaking hardcore. And when I saw Pac win that match, I was like, oh man, I didn't. The one thing about it was that I didn't feel like slighted towards Hangman. I almost felt in a sense that I felt like Hangman almost kind of got more out of it because I already knew who Pac was, but I didn't really know who Hangman was, right? Because I never watched ROH, I never watched New Japan, so I didn't really know who Hangman was until that match. And when I saw that match and that Pac finisher, and when I saw him do it again to Kenny Omega, I think it was like, I don't know if it was before or after that, but he did that same thing to Kenny Omega, and I was like, holy crap. I was like, Pac is out here destroying these guys with that finisher. Like, that finisher was just, like, really hardcore. I forgot what it was. I forgot what it's called. You know what it's called, Connor?
It was the finisher. Was it Brutalizer?
The Brutalizer, right? Is that right?
Who's finisher?
That one.
Pax. I think Pax is called the Brutalizer.
On the top rope, or the one that he does?
The submission move.
Yeah, I believe that's what it's called. What Adam said. Yeah, because he has
the Brutalizer, right?
Yeah,
right where he gets the arm and then he gets the other arm and then he pulls your head back. Like that thing is just like that's insane. I don't think I've ever seen anybody not get out of that. And then the first two times I saw him pull that move off was against Hangman and Kenny Omega, and I was like, holy crap. And I thought that like Hangman and Kenny Omega were like the stars of the show. And when I saw Pac like do that to both of these guys, I was like, okay, Pac is like a real freaking like they weren't playing around with Pac. Like they were like, yeah, this dude's gonna be like a real player. But I guess injuries, probably sidetracked that. But yeah, it was another one, Adam, that it just cemented me into my love for AEW. Because I when I was watching that match, I was like, oh, hey, Pac is probably gonna lose. And when I saw finish, damn it, I got cut out again, didn't I? I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. I've done everything.
That damn Texas internet, man. I'm telling you.
I know. The Texas is like they're cutting us off right now. Texas is gonna be eliminated off of the United States pretty soon. I'm gonna tell you. So you just enjoy me while you can. But anyway, but Hangman. I mean, when he finished Hangman with that move, because it was such a good match, and when he finished him with that finisher, I couldn't.
He's going in and out.
He is just going in and out. Danny, we've been dealing with this pretty much most of the night. It's fine.
Oh, and everything comes in threes. Remember that.
Please. Yeah. So we'll come back to Mark, obviously, because
Okay.
I kind of want to move on to another person in that match, Hangman Page. Obviously, his trajectory, he was injured, came back, won the AEW World Title. Danny, on that matter, where would you rank the trajectory of Hangman Page's title reign compared to everybody else's within the company?
Oh, good question. I do like him. I think he's great. I was not an Indies watcher, and I'm still not an Indies watcher. So I was unfamiliar with his work, but I do like him. I think he had a decent title reign. I think it was decent. I'd like to see another title reign for him in 2024 because he's like the guy that you can relate to. You take away the cowboy gimmick and he's a relatable guy. He also is an educator, former educator, such as myself. That's one of the reasons why I like him. And number two, he's the guy that can get on the mic and deliver a promo and make it good. And it's entertaining and it's fun and it's very captivating. I think he's had a great reign. I'd again like to see another one. But yeah, he's actually one of my favorites. I just wish he had better friends, but he is definitely one of the people that I do like in AEW.
Yeah, and honestly, I honestly think that it has to do with booking of how, obviously we talk about booking all the time with
100%.
professional
Yeah.
wrestling. I think if the booking was done more correctly with his title reign, you probably would have gotten a longer one and maybe better stories.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he wrestled Adam Cole twice.
Right.
And so, but they both matches were solid. But after that, he really had nowhere else to go with this title reign. It wasn't until, CM Punk arrived that, hey, now we got a story, and,
right.
Unfortunately it unfolded the way that it unfolded. None of us were backstage, so we really don't know, everything about it. But yes, as far as title ranking, I would probably put his reign behind MJF's and in front of Kenny Omega's. Just because because he's again one of these homegrown talents in AEW that actually was able to get a title reign with the world title. Obviously, he's got a new story coming along where he just got over losing to Swerve twice. We may revisit that. So looking forward to seeing where Hangman comes from there. And again, going off one of these comments from Jacob saying I miss Pac. I also miss Pac a lot. When he comes back, Connor, I guess I'll direct this question to you. Where do you want to see Pac inserted story-wise when he comes back to AEW?
Good question. I do not want to see him with the Blackpool Combat Club. I don't see any of that no more. It really depends what they want to do with Death Triangle. Do they want to? The Trios division's kind of, I won't say dead because they do have teams and they just don't use them. I wouldn't mind seeing him going for the international championship again. He had the best run out of the international title run. His is better than Orange Cassidy's. I'll say better than anyone's. He took it overseas to all kinds of countries, and it's called the AEW International Championship. It's supposed to go international, and Pac's the only one to take it international. But when Pac returns, I'd like to see him. That's tough. I like Death Triangle, but I kind of like to see them do a swerve and put Pac in the House of Black. Because the only person, I don't want to see anyone else added in the House of Black, only if it's Pac. Because Pac fits the look, the character, it fits that whole thing. So I could see him doing that. But I'd be fine if him and Death Triangle became trios champs again. anything Pac does, he pretty much does good at matches, championship runs. He held 2 titles at once in AEW. The first wrestler to ever, well, second wrestler to ever do that. Yeah, I'd hope Pac goes for the trios or the international championship.
Yeah, no, I think be excited to see him come back. Because I don't think we've seen him since that Blood and Guts match that Blackpool Combat Club had with what was it, Orange Cassidy, Best Friends, and all them.
Yeah,
I think that was the last match we saw with Pac. So yeah, I think him coming back, I think that would be great. Definitely looking forward to when he returns. So with this episode, we are getting down to it, to the last match on the card of the first episode of AEW Dynamite, and it was the Elite, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks versus Chris Jericho and Santino and Ortiz. Obviously, you know, when Santino Ortiz, Latin Express came over, you know, I remember them in the TNA days, all that stuff. Again, I'll direct this to Connor because Connor's the mastermind behind a lot of memory. Connor, the main event, what are some highlights that you remember from that main event with the Elite versus Chris Jericho and Santino Ortiz?
The event before this was All Out 2019. That's when Santana and Ortiz made their debut. The Young Bucks won their they won their match against Lucha Bros, and Santana and Ortiz made their debut. One had a John F. Kennedy mask on, and the other one, and they attacked the Young Bucks. That was leading into their match at first Dynamite, and Santana and Ortiz and Young Bucks had a really great combo of movesets because that was their first time ever going against each other. They had never went against each other before AEW. Jericho and Kenny in the ring was really good because we've seen them at 2019 Double or Nothing. To see them on TV in the very first main event of Dynamite was really good. And that match went everywhere. I don't know why it wasn't a disqualification, but Moxley and Omega went at it. They go to the back. Moxley puts Omega through a glass table. I mean, there was a lot of good spots in the match. And that night we got the Inner Circle formed. That was when the Inner Circle became a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, got to point out the debut of Jake Hager was for that episode. That was the biggest crowd reaction he's probably ever gotten. And people were chanting, "We the people." And then I'll always remember this. I don't know what this fan was directing at, but he was flipping off someone. And that's what I liked about AEW. It's more edgier than WWE. Like it's like kids on the front rows, and it's just not has that feeling. And then to see a fan I guess he was flipping off Jake Hager. I don't know. I just loved the energy for that. Yeah, I thought that main event was a really good main event, especially because that really continued 3 or 4 stories. Jericho and Cody, that would go to Full Gear. Young Bucks and Santana Ortiz, and you got Omega and Moxley. There's 3 feuds into one starting right there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Mark, we also got the save by Dustin for Cody that night. And this was after their whole match at Double or Nothing and all that stuff. So for that, it was like the first time. Like, how was your feeling for that when you were seeing the brothers, like for the first time since their days in WWE, like kind of coming together to kind of fight off, the Inner Circle?
Yeah, well, no, yeah, and I'm not too sure, Connor, if you can correct me on this, but Cody and Dusty already had fought, right, in the pay-per-view before that one.
Yeah,
they were both bloody. Were they both bloodied up?
It was the very first AEW event, 2019 Double or Nothing. Yeah.
So I think I remember that seeing bits and pieces of that. I don't know if it was online or. But hey, we got a new guest on the show. But anyway,
it's my office assistant. Don't mind her.
All right. But anyway, I mean, leading up to that, I didn't know that, well, obviously you don't. I mean, this is the one thing that you want He said when they came out beating everybody, and then Dusty came out to help out Cody, it was like, oh man. I mean, even though I hugged, but like your buddy just beat the crap out of you, and but what did he do? He came out and he helped out his brother, and that's when like Connor said, Mr. Top Cap himself, Jack Swagger, and yeah, and I remember the crowd chanting "We the People," and he destroyed everybody. And he destroyed that, and it was like there was a chance, right, that they could beat the Inner Circle. It was like, oh, let's beat the. And, but this was the thing, right? Like this was one of those things where, like when you would see back in the early '90s and early 2000s, where there was these factions, and there might be a chance of somebody beating them, right? And they kind of brought that back. Besides the NXT, I think NXT was the one that was like when they came out, like everybody was scared and terrified of them, which was in the mid 2000s, I think. But when they came out, they beat the crap out of them, and then Sammy came, right? Sammy wasn't in the Inner Circle yet, but then he came out and he helped them out, and then Jack Swagger came out, and then all of a sudden you had obviously Sammy Guevara, Jack Swagger, the Mexican.
I just want to point out, I still love that you're calling him his WWE character. It's so great because that's how everybody knows him is Jack Swagger. It's so great. I just want to let you know that brings me joy. Keep going, Mark.
I thought he was the guy with the purple hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's other thing you can call him, the guy with the purple hat. But them, that Inner Circle that formed was just like this. It was like, I mean, you couldn't not be interested, right? Because once those guys came around, it was like, holy crap! Like Jericho got a new squad, he got his own little thing, and then he just beat up Cody and a bunch of these that were supposed to be, babyface characters, and it was like, well, for me, I didn't really know who some of those babyface characters were, but at the same time, I was interested. I was like, this is what I wanted when I tuned in for this first episode of AEW. I wanted to get interested. Like I wanted to get hooked, right? Because if it was going to be something boring and just have some regular demo match at the end, I might not, and I might have tuned in, I might have not, right? But because there was so much intrigue at the end of an episode like that, that's what hooked me. Yes, there was good matches that I watched and that I loved, and I thought it was really cool. But was I gonna tune in right away next episode? Maybe not. I think I would have been like, that was pretty cool, but do I still want to watch wrestling? I'm not too sure. But then when I saw that ending, I'm like, fuck yes, I want to watch this. I want to see what is going to happen next week. I need to see what Cody's going to say. I need to see, is Dusty really messed up? I wanted to see everything that was going to happen after that. And that's the way that they did it, that they got you hooked at the end. I don't know. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I know they got me hooked like that at the end because, yes, I wanted to watch it. But like I said, I don't know if I was going to keep on watching it until I found out what happened at the end. And I was like, okay, this is the wrestling that I want to watch.
Yeah, and Danny, going to that main event and, the whole card as itself, with that first episode, you look at pretty much the names on that card that were the big names, like Omega, Moxley, Jericho, Rhodes, out of all those guys, and the trajectory and the whole idea of that first episode, who on that list of names do you think probably came out with the most momentum on that episode? Who got, who felt like that first episode, they nailed it out of the park?
Oh, that's a great question. If you speak from experience wise, obviously it's the champion, Chris Jericho. because he's been doing this for so long, and I'm getting mental visuals of when he popped up on, I think it was Raw in Chicago, when he popped up with the Y2J thing in that promo against The Rock. For somebody younger, I would say, let me think. I would say probably Mox. I'm going to go with Mox, mainly because when he was Dean Ambrose, he was an interesting guy, but this is, I think, more true to who he is now. I think that's kind of partially who he is in real life. And he's got such a grappling, brawling style. And again, when you watch a Mox match, you're surprised, hey, is he going to bleed 1 second within the match starting? I mean, it's more hardcore. It's very similar to Nick Gage to a degree, but Nick Gage is in a class on its own. I'm running, as you're talking, Adam, I'm running back through that first match. And I wanted to kind of say what Mark was saying too, is that, when you look at WWE is heavily scripted. It's follow storylines. AEW is fresh. It's new. What got me hooked was not only seeing Chris Jericho, seeing Cody, seeing Mox, but these new people that I didn't know about any of them and who they were. And, it's just some of the newer faces. And I want to go on record by saying that people on different groups have asked me what my issue is with the Bucks. I just don't like them. I just want to go on record and saying that in the beginning of AEW, I thought they were pretty cool. I know they were in TNA as Generation Me, and I actually watched TNA back then and liked them. After a while, I just stopped caring about them. I just found them to be very boring. I find them to be not even pro wrestlers, and they just don't grab my attention the way other acts do. And that's what pro wrestling is. Pro wrestling is one of those things where you want your larger than life characters and you want to get your attention. So think about like the shows that you watch. I'm a big fan of the Power series on Stars. I've watched all 3 of the 4 books. I'm also a fan of BMF. So think about like what gets you hooked on like a show like Power is you want to know he's going to do this. Well, then is he or isn't he? What's going to happen next? And that's what AEW is. You don't know what's going to happen.
No, and I totally agree. And honestly, you hit it out of the park with that comment, because you're saying if you talk about the leaders in the locker room during that time, I mean, obviously Chris Jericho being there, Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, and then some of the fresh young guys, even someone like a Jake Hager coming in. You had earlier in the show, you had, guys like Private Party coming in, kind of like being the fresh young guys coming into locker room, trying to figure out their way in it. But yeah, no, you definitely hit it there as far as, who came out benefiting from this first. I think it was everybody. Because a lot of people did not expect to see what they saw on this first episode. And actually, we could go one of these comments, jumping from back to now, from Oliver asking about what AEW has become PG. He goes, you guys think AEW has become too PG? There's a lot of stuff with OC stuff, Hager's Purple Hat, Daddy Match Acclaim stuff. Now, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to take this one first. Oliver, I see where you're coming from about going too PG, but you got to remember we just had one of the craziest Texas death matches I've ever seen in any pro wrestling. It was beyond anything PG I've ever seen. It is something that I feel WWE, TNA, even like MLW, CML. I don't think any of them would have a death match as brutal as I saw that match with Paige and Swerve. There are some stuff that are geared towards kids, because again, you have to look at it as a marketing thing, where AEW does have a certain demographic, but they also want to draw in more. So they have to change it up a little bit, where they do have to have, the Orange Cassidy stuff, the Hager's hat, the Acclaim stuff. But even the Acclaim stuff is kind of risque for kids. I mean, if you think about it, that's more geared towards teens. So I wouldn't say it's more PG, but it is geared more towards teens. I guess we'll go in order here. Connor, what would you say about Oliver? Do you think AEW has become PG?
Not really overall product. I don't think they have. I mean, bits and pieces, yeah, but I feel like they were like that in the beginning of AEW. Maybe not always on air, but off air. Like I seen, I was at a show. It was in South Mississippi, and Cody Rhodes and Billy Gunn did a arm wrestling contest in front of the crowd. It wasn't on air, but I feel like they've always had bits and pieces of that. Like George Janela was a good example that he kind of had some PG stuff, but a little bit. But a lot of the stuff like Orange Cassidy, he's kind of changed into just a wrestler now. He doesn't really do a lot of the pocket stuff and kicks and sunglasses. He comes out with it, but he doesn't do it in the ring anymore. Daddy Magic, I don't really think that would be towards kids, especially what he says. And the Acclaimed is kind of like this generation's DX. Like they're targeting teens. Like the Acclaim would have fit perfect in the Attitude Era. Like that would have been perfect. Uh, yeah, that's my response to that.
Mark,
So-
I'd like to get your take on it now too. Yeah.
So, I mean, so he's referencing like certain people's things, but no, I'll say absolutely not. I think TNT, I think Turner is more than happy. I mean, more than okay with them doing crazy stuff. They're more than okay with the blood. We're nowhere near to what WWE is doing on the PG side. WWE doesn't do any kind of blood, and you will see plenty of blood at certain spots. We just had one of the craziest blood spots with Swerve and Hangman at the pay-per-view. I know that wasn't on TV, but that was still something that's a part of what AEW is doing. I don't think they're I don't think they're going in. They're not there yet. Eventually, it might get there. Oliver, I'll just say that it could get there eventually, but right now, there's too many. There's a lot of cursing. I mean, when you're gonna say "f you," or and we're gonna have like big slander words. I mean, Connor, we just saw,
Christian Cage.
we just saw Edge tell Christian,
Yeah.
And that thing did not get censored. So there's no way in heck we could say that this is getting PG. And I can't even say that was like something that was if they didn't know that was going to happen. I kind of feel like they knew that was going to happen and they still let it go. Right? Like they're just like let's go off the rails here because we don't want to be like WWE. We don't want to be PG like WWE. To me, that's what I think. And I'm gonna just go off of this, and I'm gonna say absolutely not. I don't feel like they're going PG. I mean, because PG is just. I mean, you're going straight Disney here. PG. I mean, PG-13 maybe, but we're almost on some M-rated stuff here because of the hard language that's coming out. When you're saying F-bombs, you're pretty much going on M-rated stuff here. That's pretty much 17 and over. But so if anything, it would be PG-13, but not PG. PG's you're going 8 to 10-year-olds stuff, and that's what WWE does. They don't do anything off of off script of blood. They don't want no blood. They don't want no cursing. They don't want none of that. AEW does everything with that. They'll do blood. They'll do cursing. They do everything. So no, we're not in that. We're not in that level yet. The Daddy Magic and Acclaim stuff. I don't get what that is because Acclaim went through a glass wall. Daddy Magic says pervert and all that stuff, which you wouldn't be able to say that stuff on a WWE network. So even at that, I don't know what the purple hat thing is. I don't know how that would be. I don't know what that would be considered as OC stuff. I don't know what OC does as going into that. So because OC could do that in WWE and he could do that stuff in AEW. That's not a thing. But just off of the PG level thing, no, we're not. The AEW is not going off of PG level. Absolutely not.
And Danny, even going off of that, do you eventually see, like, going off of what Mark and I have talked about? Do you see maybe AEW even adding some kid friendly stuff in there just to change their demographic, or do you think they keep it the way that it is?
I'm gonna say no. And hi to Oliver. Thanks so much for the comment. I'm looking at it right now. I don't see them doing PG, because if you want PG, you turn the show on Monday night on USA or go on Fox on Friday night and watch LA Night. Okay. But no, so WWE, very watered down. WWE is like, to me, in some aspects, a flat Diet Coke, and I love my Diet Coke. It's like a flat Diet Coke, or it's bad coffee. And I say bad coffee because it's very watered down. And again, they've got more sponsors. You've got Linda McMahon's, Senate run from years ago. You've got all the negative publicity for WWE. So of course they're going to tone it down. One thing that I do like about AEW is I feel that there's a little bit more creative freedom. Edge there. I called him Edge. There you go. Dropping the F-bomb on Christian. I was like, whoa, I never thought I'd see that. But then also too, just, some of the other stuff that you've got in there, like you've got Mox bleeding, you've got Daddy Magic, who I think is hysterical. Things like that. The Acclaimed. Yeah, Connor, you're absolutely right. They would have fit in well back in the Attitude Era. And some of the stuff that they're saying, I'm like, cover your ears. My nanny kid, she's 3. She knows Wednesday's Wardlow. She knows that Wardlow's my favorite. So I've kind of showed her clips. I'm a bad nanny. I've kind of showed her some clips that are okay. I mean, she's 3. I can teach her about wrestling now. But still, I feel like if AEW watered down their product, it would make it less intriguing. And it's intriguing because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what they're going to say. And it's better than having something watered down that's heavily scripted, because it leaves no use to the imagination.
No,
and
and
you go back, yeah.
and I agree. No, and I agree. And actually, 2 of the comments that just popped up from Oliver and Davis said, that WWE is starting to get more edgy now. But like you guys said, I don't see AEW changing. I would like to see it where we get the blood, but not an excessive amount of it. I think it's okay to get some blood spots and everything like that. Obviously, in Texas death matches, it's fine for as much as you bleed. But and they've kind of cut it down a little bit where Moxley doesn't bleed every match now. I think for me, I'm a big Mox fan, but I feel like for me, like that was too much. Like Mox does not need to bleed every single match. I get it. The guy's edgy; he can do it. But I get it. And people saying, well, WWE is starting to get more edgy. Just by its slight margin. They're not going to go as edgy as what AEW is doing right now, because of the audience they're trying to keep. And now they're going. Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Because I want to ask a question. When was the last time somebody bled in WWE?
It was not Survivor Series, but what was the last pay-per-view? It was with Kevin Owens. It was a mess.
SummerSlam, maybe.
I know Kevin Owens did something here recently. He was bloodied up. He was a mess.
Yeah, it was KevinOwens that got bloodied up. Yeah, that was the
How
last
long-
one. It was
when was this?
It was the pay-per-view right before Survivor Series.
SummerSlam. No, Crown Jewel.
Was it or No Mercy?
Might have been Crown Jewel, maybe, or was it No Mercy?
Yes.
I don't know if anybody knows. You guys post in the comments. But go ahead, Mark.
Because I want to see that. Man. Okay, but go ahead. Go back, Connor.
Oh no, because I was saying,
Adam, my bad.
Yeah, no, because I was saying I was agreeing with all of you guys about it. It's more so that AEW is a certain product and they're going for a certain demographic, and then you have WWE who has a certain demographic. They have families. They have parents with young kids that want to come to these shows. Now, some of us older folks, like we remember those days where WWE was edgy. You know, the Attitude Era. Hell, even in the renaissance of the aggressive era, you know, ruthless aggression, we still had blood and all that stuff. You know, like it was to an extreme to some point, but now it is watered down, and there are some comedy aspects to WWE now. You don't see a lot of comedy stuff in AEW. Which is crazy because there's a lot of humor in AEW that a lot of people don't understand. And like,
Except Danhausen.
Yeah, Danhausen's great.
Oh my God, love him.
But Danhausen is one of those guys, and we talk about it as someone reinventing themselves. You know, like if a lot of people don't know, Danhausen started as just Donovan Danhausen. He didn't have the makeup on. He was just a wrestler, but he wanted to change his gimmick. That's when he came up with the very nice, very evil character of Danhausen. And it kind of reinvented his whole career. We're in AEW, a lot of people do that. We could point out Chris Jericho has went through a lot of changes in his character development.
Hey Adam, let me put this one out there, Adam. Let me put this on there. I saw this comment. And somebody said, we need to realize that CM Punk, John Moxley, MJF are not true baby face. Are not true baby faces, and the one that is a true baby face of AEW is Hangman Adam Page. And he said the quicker we realize this, the quicker we can get done with it. Can we throw that out there and let's see what let's talk about this one and let's see can we dissect this one for a bit?
And this will be our last thing to talk about on it too. Is that yes, you talk about, and we talk about faces and heels. And you talk about CM Punk and all these guys and Chris Jericho. To me, I kind of compare it to superhero stuff, to comic book stuff. Like CM Punk and Chris Jericho, mostly CM Punk, because I like CM Punk, but he's not a hero. He's not a villain. He's an anti-hero. That's what he is. He's a Deadpool. Yeah. Is basically what CM Punk is. CM Punk is a Deadpool. You know, whereas someone like Hangman Page is like a Batman. Or or like a Superman, you know, the main hero, but no, I like this take on it, Mark, because especially in you have this divided wrestling community who want to dissect every little thing and kind of divide and separate everybody, and what we're not realizing is it's still entertainment. We call it pro wrestling. Everybody else calls it entertainment. It is pro wrestling entertainment to me, is what I call it. Right. And that's for me watching it as a young kid during the Attitude Era. So I'm like, I grew up with pro wrestling entertainment. I didn't grow up with this sports entertainment kind of stuff. So I like that question on it, and people want to get in on that. Then yeah, by all means, please. Connor, I mean, from what Mark just asked, I mean, the true face, do you feel like people can't perceive a true face or a true heel?
Yeah, MJF's a heel. He'll never be a face. That's what I feel like. One thing that's wrong with the AEW part right now is MJF. He's not a face. He's not, and he can't be, because he's such a good heel that he just can't play that babyface role. Like he made people hate him, and they come to the shows to literally hate on him. Like there's a fan that tried to jump the guardrail one time, and we've had one on here that doesn't like Chris, doesn't like MJF all too well. Like MJF made a lot of people mad that would come to the show just to boo him. But someone like Hangman, I would say possibly a heel. I mean a face. I think the true baby face of AEW was probably Cody Rhodes, because he was always in these feuds, and he was always, I don't know, like the true baby face of AEW, I guess you'd say, with TNT Championship stuff, with the feuds he was in. It always seemed like he was the true baby face of the company. But Hangman right now, currently, yeah, he hasn't really turned heel in AEW, I don't feel. He's always been face, right? He's teased going heel, but he's never really done it. Right. Yeah, right now I'd say Hangman is the only true face, I guess you'd say.
I mean, even in that story of where he rejoined the Elite, they were supposed to be the baby faces in that story against the Blackpool Combat Club. Danny, as far as that take wise, as far as what kind of coming off what Connor said, do you think there's an unbalance or good balance of faces and heels in not only AEW, just professional wrestling?
Honestly, true heel, no. And when I think true heel, I think of the late great Nick Bockwinkel. Bockwinkel was, oh my God, he was just like one of the guys that you believed that that's who he was in real life. You believed that he was this rich, pompous, arrogant jerk that just, oh my God. And the way he delivered a promo, watch some of his promos, you're just like, there was like no emotion, no like intensity with the promos. It was very smooth, very deliverable. Ultimate heel manager, we know the brain, Bobby Heenan. That's Bobby Heenan could never play a face. I can't even see it. True heel, Rock. Rock plays a great heel. Another true heel that I would say now, um, that should be a heel is I'm going to say Max. Well, I call him Max, but MJF. He is what I call this generation's Nick Bockwinkel with the Bobby the Brain Heenan. And if you cloned Nick Bockwinkel and you cloned Bobby Heenan, you'd have Max MJF. He's that good at what he does. I like him as a face, but he just plays that arrogant rich kid so well to a T that makes me wonder if he's like that in real life as well. Another good heel, Jericho plays a better heel than he does a face, but somebody that needs to be a consistent heel is I would say Wardlow. He's just, and I use him one because he's my favorite, but two, he's the guy that they had as a monster heel, the strong silent bodyguard type. They turned him into a face. The guy is too nice to be considered, and he really is one of the sweetest people on the planet. He just cannot play that face role, make him heel. Today I feel like in AEW they blend together for some reason. To me, like obviously I'm not an Elite fan. I didn't know that the Elite were supposed to be faces. I couldn't tell. I was thinking they were heels. Blackpool Combat Club, are you guys faces or heels? I can't tell the difference. So I feel like for me, I'm watching AEW. I'm like, oh, are you a face this week or a heel this week? But the second ultimate heel, and I don't even know if he kept the gaiters on, Ric Flair. The Ric Flair promo when he was talking about he couldn't keep the gaiters on, one of my favorite ones to this day. And I actually always have had a thing for bad boys, and I had a thing for Flair when I was a kid as a heel.
Well,
Hey-o.
you're not, but I don't know if
Hey-o.
you're 20, I don't know if you're 22 or through 28 right now because that's what he goes for now. So,
I know. I didn't even know about this comment. I was like, wait, what?
yeah, no.
Yeah,
So
no.
the Ric Flair is a completely different topic,
Yeah.
completely for me and for this show because
Yeah.
there's a lot of things I can say about that man. But
Yeah.
no, I totally agree. When you look at the landscape of pro wrestling today, there is not really a good balance of heels and faces, and then those of who should be heels that are faces, or those that are faces that should be heels. Obviously, if anyone interested, we do have episodes where we talk about either a character change or turning someone face or heel. We'll I'm sure we'll get to more of those later. But obviously, that's a topic for another day. But overall, when we're talking about the progression of AEW, I guess we could say, to sum up this episode, there was a big change from that first episode of what AEW was to what it is today. People have come and gone. People have signed that we didn't expect to sign. We've had matches that we didn't expect to see in AEW. We've had wrestlers in AEW we didn't expect to see, and we didn't expect to see to go. So I
Also,
yes, Mark, go ahead.
Also, we had fans that weren't fans that grew into fans and have been, pretty much longtime fans now. From that, just jumping into that, just wanted to delve into that.
No, and you know what? That's a great thing to finish up on is that comment is that yeah, we do have people again, we talk about on this show all the time about people that support one and want to bash the other. And I mean Connor, Mark, and Danny, I'm sure you've seen from past episodes my take on the whole community. I'm sick of the negativity. I've had to left 3 more groups today because I was sick of the people tribalism and attacking other people for their views on certain products. It's very toxic and I don't like it. It's you like what you like. Don't bash the other competition. It's so sad when you see people hoping another competition goes out of business. Why do you want people to lose their jobs? And obviously I don't see AEW going anywhere. They're not going out of business. WWE is definitely not going out of business. Heck, look at someone like Impact. Impact's been around since mid 2000s. They're still going.
Right, and nobody tries to say anything about Impact, right? It's always about AEW and WWE now.
Yeah,
and that's the thing.
And nobody bashes TNA. Nobody bashes them, right? It's always between these 2 guys, and we're and like me and Connor, like for us, I know Connor starts, he kind of started watching, a little bit of WWE now, but Connor doesn't. What Connor does, he criticizes, but he doesn't bash on it. He's telling you a thing that he wants. He's not telling you that it's shitty. He's saying what you should do differently. And you know what the funny thing is that Tony Khan pretty much listens to Connor at this point. I'm gonna tell you right now, like he pretty much listens to Connor. Hey Connor, and I gotta tell you, so you saw, right? So now he was begging Tony Khan for Abaddon to be on TV. Now she's on TV every week. Dude, that is not a coincidence. This is not the first time. This is not the first time that Connor's done something like that. To where he's influenced on. But I want to tell you, Connor, is that when I was watching this past episode, when we were watching one of our episodes of the show, and when they were doing the Intercontinental Classic, I said they need to put on a timer. They need to say something about that timer. If there's 10 minutes left. There's 5 because it's a 20-minute timer, right? And then what happens? All of a sudden, you got what's his name out there? 15 minutes or 5 minutes left. The 15 minutes is done. 5 minutes left. And I'm like, oh, that's because of Connor. I was like, because Tony Khan listens to Connor. So Connor basically works. Tony Connor basically works for Tony Khan, but for free. He needs to figure that out. And he needs to figure it out because he needs to start getting paid because it's not fair.
I used to work with, I'm not going to say who I used to work for. Adam knows.
Yeah, I know you work. Yeah.
Or I used to work for.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Connor, that's the funny thing is why Connor started this pod. I mean, because he understands the business probably more than all 3 of us right now. I mean, we know.
Yeah.
I've been told I know history about pro wrestling just because I've been watching it so long. From what my take with Danny, she knows the history of pro wrestling. I mean, dropping that name on tonight's episode just blew my mind when you said it. I was like, oh my god,
what name?
Winkle.
Yeah.
When you dropped Winkle's name, I was like, holy crap, that's a name from the past I've not heard in forever.
I should be working for AEW. Yeah. If I was, you don't want to give me a microphone because somebody would get a really good promo. But no, and I just wanted Adam, that's a good point too. Like I'm in a couple of the groups and I literally made one comment. And what was it that I said? I said something about, hey, Cucamonga, because I called them the Cucamonga Cabbage Patch Kids or the Cucamonga Children's Club. And JP, Jack Perry, Punk's going to something about Punk showing you what to do or take a lesson that you could be at a level of Punk. And when I say the level of Punk, I'm talking about because he's a draw. He's like ratings. He draws people in. And people are like, well, there's something wrong with you if you used to like the Elite and don't like them anymore. No, I lost interest in them. It's what happens when a character's stale. I don't want AEW to fail, but there are a ton of improvements they need to make if they want to do something with that business and go a little bit further than what they are. And I totally see your point, Adam. Adam, sorry, I had to do it, but I totally see your point because it's almost like people are joining the groups and they don't know the history of pro wrestling. Like I had somebody like the Logan Paul, I go put Logan Paul in a ring with LA Knight. Somebody goes, "Oh, well, he would beat LA Knight like he beat Mysterio." And I responded back, "What are you, 12? Even my nephew doesn't like Logan Paul and he's 14." So it's like think before you post, learn your history. And I grew up watching this from when I was a little kid. My grandmother got me into it, not the thing that a child like myself with ADHD and autism should watch, but I still watch it at an age where some kids, when they're 12, 13, 14, 15, start outgrowing it because they differentiate fantasy from reality. I chose to keep watching it because my grandmother got me into it, and it makes me feel close to my grandmother.
Yeah, no, obviously, I mean, we had this episode talking about how we got into pro wrestling and all this stuff. But that's for me, that's a great way to end this episode, is talking about how we should just enjoy the product regardless of what it is, and not divide each other. Again, thank you guys for joining us tonight. It's definitely an honor to have you guys always on this episode, on the show with us, talking about AEW, talking about pro wrestling. It's one of my favorite things I do every week. Connor can contest to that. He knows I love doing this stuff. It's what draws me away from real life. Again, everybody listening, make sure you guys, like, subscribe, share with friends. We're on YouTube, we're on Twitch, we're on Spotify. We got a lot of things coming up. We got actually, Connor can say it for next week's episode. Connor, do you want to give everybody what's up for next week?
Yeah, it was supposed to be this week's episode. Hopefully we can do it next week. But the plan is for our 2-year anniversary of the All Elite Zone. That was supposed to be planned tonight, but things happened. Next week, hopefully we can do that. Either way, we're going to do it next week. Hopefully we can have some names on that a lot of people have been asking about that I want to bring back. There's a lot of packages that we've made a few weeks ago that we've gotten ready for this episode, for this anniversary. We have like our best debut reactions. We have a lot of those and the best funniest moments. There's a lot of those that consists of one person, which is Chris. A lot of them, it wasn't even supposed to be funny. It just come off funny. But we have a lot of good categories. We have a lot of good stuff we'll talk about next week for our 2nd-year anniversary. Definitely come by next week.
The way I know people, they'll want to tune in for that.
No, yeah, we're definitely excited for that. I know I've been with you guys for Connor for almost maybe a year and a half. I've been with you guys almost. So I've truly enjoyed it. Again, I want to thank Connor, our wonderful producer. I want to thank Marky Mark all the way from Texas. Hopefully, next time your system works and Texas doesn't shut off all your power. Danny, always a pleasure for having you on.
Hey, they just raised our power.
What's up? What do you say?
They just the city council just approved a rate to raise our electricity rates.
Oh, sweet,
hey.
Cool. But again, again, you guys can,
more electricity.
Again, you guys can follow us again on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, Spotify, all this stuff. And yes, we have great videos on our pages. We have great interviews with wrestlers. We've got a lot of interviews, like Connor said, he's got a lot planned. We're very excited for what the new 2024 will not only bring to us as a channel, but also what brings for pro wrestling in 2024. That includes every promotion, not just AEW. Even though we're AEW loyalists, we do watch other products and we also keep up with them. So we will talk about them. Is there anything else anybody wants to say before we?
I'll go off this one comment. The craziest stuff you've seen was. Guess that's right towards me, Connor.
It says Conrur,
Yeah,
but I'm pretty sure that's you.
Con-
Some of the
Conrur.
all
craziest.
right, yeah.
Danny might know this, but I'm sure you all know. I was a wrestling referee for, still am, kind of, I guess. I was a part of a booking team. I was part of a lot of stuff like that. Some of the craziest stuff I've seen was refereeing a match in a legit fight in the ring. And you're refereeing the match, and you see two guys actually swinging at each other, and the match is over, and then you go to the back, and let's say someone cuts off a body part. I guess I'd say that's the craziest thing I've ever seen. If you want to talk about dark side of the ring stuff, that's the dark side of the ring stuff I've ever witnessed. Someone cutting off someone. Just talk about.
Hey,
It's not what you think.
We should do a separate, because they're only doing mainstream stuff. Let's do like indie stuff, Connor. Like let's do an indie.
Some of the stuff is too dark for YouTube, probably.
Yeah, we'll think about it, Mark. Maybe we'll put that in our back pocket and maybe do it. Man.
Oh, and also,
hey, I'm game.
refereeing
I'm game,
a
bro.
Boogeyman's match. That's one of the craziest things I've ever experienced. Refereeing the Boogeyman. I'll never do that again, probably.
He's creepy. He was creepy.
He's insane for real.
Pervert.
I
That's
thought
not a character.
Packer fans scare me, and they do. I'm a Bear fan. I was raised right, thank God. Packer fans scare me. The Kardashians scare me. The Dugars scare me. Well, and they're scary enough as it is. But Boogeyman just that just creeps me out. That's as creepy as the movie Carrie in the end when she's on the stage and she's covered in blood. That's creepy AF.
Like Boogeyman is actually his character. He is that. He plays the part. Like the dude, like he picks up a grab of worms and throws it at the crowd, and then he eats the thing. Like he's a real worm. Like, and then the next day we had to go to the building to clean up, and you don't want to know that smell.
I remember you told me this story, Connor. Yeah, you told me this.
Yeah,
he told
me this one too. I know this one too.
The whole mat had to be burned. The whole road, everything was like you couldn't get the smell out of the mat. And who wants to go to a show that the mat smells like worms?
Dead worms.
I'm about to vomit. Okay, we got.
And here, you know what?
I guess we're gonna end on.
Guess my Connor's story about the worms, actually, my story about picking up poop on a classroom floor in a 1-year-old room, bare hands, mind you. That's nothing. I don't know if that's just as bad.
Speaking about that shit, we're gonna end this. Again, thank you guys for joining us tonight.
Absolutely.
Please share this episode with your friends. And my God, if there's nothing else, thank you guys for joining us. Connor, be ready to exit because, as always, and good night.
Hey, for everybody, just don't forget, tune in with us tomorrow. We got episode.
Oh yes,
Dynamite.
thank you.
I mean, episode of Rampage tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Central Time, 10 p.m. Central. 10 p.m. Eastern, and then we got a whole episode of a crazy episode of Collision on Saturday night. So don't forget to tune in that with us. We're gonna have our live Dynamite reactions, and if y'all tune into this and y'all watch that, throw us the questions if y'all have some more. That if y'all don't get to ask them on this, ask them on that tomorrow, and ask them on that on Sunday. But other than that, we will see y'all guys. I'm gonna let Connor send us off.
Because we're done with this shit.
Yeah, no, pretty much. All right, and as always, good night.
Let Connor send us off. All
right, we'll see you guys tomorrow night for Rampage.
Good night.
There you go.